Okay, so I've recently finished a bootcamp, and I decided to learn React sideways. During low wagon, I mainly learned Rails, so I wanted to see how React and Rails work together, and somehow I found a solution, and I would like to share the solution with every one of you. So who am I? I'm a full stack developer. I've recently graduated from low wagon. Really good community. If anyone is looking to change their field and become a developer, really good place to be. So I also play cricket. This is my cricket team. So I'm here. I'm the captain. Play on weekend. So why this talk? I know I'm going a little bit fast because I want to code for a longer duration. So this talk is, I think so, the main challenge that I had with different solution was sometimes I use React Rails gem and it's not working and I'm missing some steps, and sometimes some other steps is missing. So I wanted to show something which is not breaking down so that you can all refer how to make a React app. And if you don't have any experience with React app, just like to share how you plan your React app to break into components and use different features of React. And if you do like to know some particular feature of React, to ask, because I also want to learn, and if I don't know, I'll find the answer for you. So why React? So really good, really powerful and powerful front end platform than normal HTML CSS. No, not for me. And it's really speed. So the DOM, it only affects the DOM which it needs to affect, which is why it's very speed. So if you want to use front end heavy website, so maybe React is a really good option for you. And you can make different reusable component which you can use. Really easy to use reusable component. I'm sure React also has a similar reusable component, but I think so React is much better because I have more experience with React. With Rails, it gives you fast-paced development. So the reason during the bootcamp, we do get stronger in the front end, but the back end is always complex. So I think so Rails provide that satisfaction that you can make a backend. So Rails is really good for that. Really good in security part and easy to learn. So let's jump into live project. So before we jump, let's try some memes here. So coder's gonna code, yeah. What about this one? So I may get few runtime errors, so nothing to scare. So I'll try to debug as much as possible. And so yes, if I can, so you can do it too. Okay, so let's try it. So I've already created a scratch version where I shouldn't waste enough time. So let's see what I have right now. So normal Rails app. Okay, so this is a normal Rails app with html.erb file. A restaurant where there is a description of the restaurants. You can view details of the restaurant, ratings, capacity, and currently rated by, this is the username, and all these details. And you can add details for the review. So let's try to add detail. Let's put Kevin there. And Kevin is awesome. So let's rate 5 from Kevin's behalf. And it's this meetup is awesome. Let's create a review. And there you go. Because I rated 5, its rating remains same, 5. What happened at the backend? Let's take an overview before we jump into React, because I'm gonna comment all these files. So let's go back to Yummy. And can you see when I click something over there, there is so many things updating there. So let's try to explore this and see from there. Let's try to do this. So the entire DOMs get updated at the same time. And let's go to network and see what's happening. Let's and clear the network. Okay, let's go back. So let's keep this as mine, 8.8 KB, 20 KB. To keep this file memory in mind to see what is the difference between React and normal EFB file. Okay, so I'm going to show you some backend code as well, what I've done. Apart from this, I also want to show you one more thing, which I haven't opened. So I'll open that while it's getting open. So pretty simple React app. So controllers, and I'll show you routes. So this is where the magic lies with the front end of React. So this is the view that I was currently using. So the root application was restaurants index. So I'm going to change this route now for React application. I'm going to create this, activate this, and I can leave this there because this route is not affecting, but I'm still going to comment it because I don't want to face any bug. And this is the API call that we'll be calling to generate the restaurants and reviews from there. And I'll bring this file. There you go. Okay. Can you guys see this thing? Yeah. Cool. So this is what I'm going to use mainly for my React application. So I'm going to just use Postman to see how I'm generating data. So I'm going to use a REST API. So I'm going to see. So this is an API to check each restaurant within ID 1. So I'm spitting out the JSON file. So I've created a REST API background in my Rails app. So if I, for example, use this, so this is the data that's getting generated. Obviously, I've changed the code. It's not going to work. So let's go back. And if I want to view all the restaurants, I'm just going to use Postman and spit out all the restaurants. There's one more thing happening with the restaurants and review relationship. So for each restaurant, I'm also generating list of an array of reviews. So each reviews that's been added. So we can see that there is Kevin been added there. And let's try to use this thing and create a React app from scratch. So first thing is, usually if you already know that you want to use your Rails application with React, so you can simply use Rails new file name, and so this webpack, and set it to React. So if you run this file, it will start from scratch. But since we already have everything running, so I'm gonna Rails back. And yeah, before doing this, I'm just gonna check out in different branch. Yeah, cool. There you go. And we are just waiting there. So what this file mainly will do, it's gonna add some yarn module or npm modules in this package.json file. We can see it added React and React DOM, which we will be using mainly. So let's see what happened in the packs.js, because it's saying yellow. So this has created a default, a main component that's gonna get generated in the application layout. So this is a main file. So I'm just gonna quickly change it to something nice. And I'm gonna add a component there where we will keep all the components of React over there. So let's call it app.js. And I use this extension for this, which when you do this, it's gonna generate all the React code for you and see what happens there. Let's try to run this file and get there. So this is in the index. I'm gonna remove everything from there, so I'm not gonna use it. And simply instead of there, I'm gonna add my main component of React. So yeah, there. Obviously, I'm nervous, so which is why I'm typing really slow. So we see that. So this generator already gives us the command that we have to attach to the application ERV file. So let's go there. Views, layout. Okay, so you can choose to add this there, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add this to the React page, which will be our main page. So this one, to rename this file index there, and for Rails application, we want it to be update live. Okay, so like continuously update. So I'm gonna create this setting, Webpacker. Yeah, this will just continuously live load all the changes that's gonna happen. And just wait for it to load, and hopefully this is gonna change. So React index is missing. Yeah. So the controller React index is there. There. Can I just quickly I'm going to assume that I'm just closing and reopening the server fixed it, and it did. So I didn't have to change anything, just close the Rails server and it did fix it. So let's jump into, so we are in the React app component. Okay, so let's go back and imagine what happened. What did we had in the previous website HTML? So we did had the header. So let's say that header is one of the component that we need, and the rest of them is the body. So let's create a header. So I'm not going to create a header from scratch. So what I'll do, I'll be using all this thing. So I'm gonna almost use almost the same file, and I'll show you the difference, like how where it is different. So I'm gonna create a separate folder for it inside component. I'm gonna call it header. So it's good to create a folder for each component, because if you wanna like personalize the styling, so you can have its own style there. So right now I'm just gonna use Bootstrap. So obviously not like that. There. Okay, so what's happening here? So React is getting called. So when we use this, so how will the JSX file, how will this file know that when we call the header there, that is a React component? So we have to make sure that it's capitalized H, like the file name is H, and also the component function that we return starting from H. So the data that's returning, it's a JSX. It's not a JavaScript. It's a mixture of JavaScript and HTML. It looks similar to HTML. So this is what React community is trying to do. It's like make it similar to HTML and make it different. The only difference that we can do from here is like rename all the class name to this one. Oh, like this. Okay, so if we use a class instead of class, if we use class name, so it will work. Next, I'm going to comment this part just to keep it there, and let's create an anchor tag. There's already an anchor tag there, so first maybe dash and use the same name. Okay, so it's giving us error because of this, and it needs the same class name. Okay, so it looks like it's gonna run. So let's see if it's gonna run or not. Let's import this thing there, and I'm gonna use another component here, which is very regularly used. It's called Fragment. So the reason we use Fragment is we don't want to create a lot of div, and so React enforces you to keep your file like your component in under one component, And so usually what we do is we create a div and keep all the like small components inside that particular div. So, but if in React, because there are so many components, there's so many divs that get generated in page source and element. So in order to avoid that, just simply use this fragment. It's very handy. And let's go to header, and simply, so it auto imported the header there. So let's see what we are seeing. So we're seeing the navigation bar there. So React component is updating the navigation bar. So this, if I click on this, it's gonna somehow not gonna work, but it's gonna work. I'll see, and let's figure out why this is coming from there. So it's definitely looks like in the index, I may have added something, or maybe in the application layout when we commented this. Yeah, cool. There we go. So let's see. So this is header. Let's go back and let's plan what we need in the second part. So we were navigating between two pages. One on the one was the pages which was displaying all the restaurants, and one pages which were showing only one selected restaurant with a form on the right side. Okay, so we definitely need to change pages. So for this, we'll use something like this. It's called React Router DOM. Really, it gives you this is the main thing which gives you SPA's functionality, single page application. So let's quickly add this to DOM, and I'm gonna open app file, and instead of fragment, I'm gonna use browser router, which gets imported from there. And inside browser router, I want to keep my header outside the switch. So and let's create two components which contains the main restaurants. So let's say so let me quickly explain this thing, because even if I don't make a website in full, like if you want to learn this part, like I may as well explain this right now. So what's the browser router and route and switch? So this is a wrapper function which wraps the entire component. So this, if anything is inside it, it gives you the ability to SPA, like to navigate between different pages, and give you a feeling that it's not actually changing a page, it's just updating some sections. So I'm keeping header outside because I'm putting another wrapper there which is called switch. So switch is the main part which is going to change in the entire website, which is like this part, and header is going to stay constant. So what will happen behind the scene is like React router will update only this part of the DOM and leave this part of the DOM as in constant. Whereas in html.erb file, everything got changed, like everything was updated from the server side. So this is also was getting updated from the server side. Okay, and so with route we usually give path, and let's say path is this, and we also have to add exact there just to make sure that it's the only path there, and component equals to some component. So we know that we need two pages. So let me quickly do this thing, and when I click something like this, I don't even know the spelling of restaurant now. Okay, so there we go. And I'm gonna keep this empty just so that it doesn't give an error. But ideally what I want to get two component, one for restaurants, which is gonna contain all the restaurants, and one for the individual restaurant. Okay. Kevin, do let me know if I'm going over time. Okay. So let's create two component. So first thing is let's create restaurants. Inside this restaurants, I need two file. So first, which is contain all the restaurants, and the second, which will contain each restaurant on that particular restaurants. And the second folder will be for each restaurants when we're navigating. It's kind of a show page for controller. And like this, and like this. Cool. So let's copy paste something from here. Where's the view? Restaurants, and let's do, okay, this is the main one. So let's go there. Let's close all the file. Restaurants. So I'm gonna, again, you're gonna use this shortcut and do this thing. So this is the header. I can break this into another component, but just let's keep it like this right now. And okay, let's see what's getting displayed if we use something in the app. There. Okay, and let's comment this part so that it doesn't throw an error. Okay, so there's some error. Okay, so because of this, okay, it's now compiled. So let's see this. Okay, shouldn't give an error, but let's go forward, and I'm pretty sure that it shouldn't give us an error. Oh, there's something happening. This is outside the box. Okay, maybe that's why. Okay, that's fine. So let's create another one, another component, and this will be from show. And I'm gonna copy everything from show. Comment all the ERB code. Looks like I have to comment everything. Just keeping this layout there so that I can get back to it. Okay. All right, so right now we have two major components. So one is the restaurant from this folder. This is individual component, and this is another component. So with React, like how does it updates everything? Okay, so React mainly use state, something like this, which it's state. So this is the main factor which makes sure that the website gets updated. So for example, there is something there, yeah, and if that anything inside that particular component and the state changes, or you change state based on the click or any input or any other factor, so it's going to make sure that it's going to re-render the component again. So for this thing, we know that from the JSON API, we are calling something for let's see what we were calling with this thing. So yeah, so we are getting a data. Data is an array. So right now we just need an array of restaurants, and okay, simple. So we need an array of restaurants. So we'll call this restaurants, and we can set state here as restaurants, and initial state should be empty array. And we are going to use next hook. This is called hook. I'm not sure exactly why it's called hook, but the main thing the hook does is it gives you the ability to use React thing in natively. So this use effect hook, what it does, like every time the component is rendered in your website, this function runs. Whatever inside this function, it will run. So, and when this is a dependency array, so we just telling the component that at this stage, we don't have any dependency. So run only the first time. So when the first time restaurants, and so now we are going to use another library, Axios. It's great to use to call and fetch API. It's easier than fetch because in this one you can just call a method and use it. So let's use Axios there. So, and let's call this method and quickly copy that this API URL. So with this thing, we'll get a response of something. Let's quickly console log that response to see what we get from the component. And if there is this problem, let's try to remove it. And okay. Yeah, I'm gonna quickly check the console why the component is not loading. Okay, something is invalid. Gonna quickly copy this and prop components applied to route. Okay. Is it components? Oh yeah, okay. So we don't pass it like that. We just pass it like that. Okay, just refer the name of it. So I have a habit of creating another like something like this and then pass a component just to pass it. But that's my mistake. Sorry about that. And there we go. Okay, so we have a yummy restaurant there. Let's see why it's not rendering the console if we are getting any other error. No, we are not getting any other errors. So let's move this out.
Is it components instead of components?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Could be the thing. So I just changed it and thank you. Did it changed? Use effect is not defined, which is in the restaurants.js. Okay, finally something is loading. So yeah, so there we go. So this is just a small component. This is we can like take this from here and we can create another component called title and put all the title, like we just pass the props there and change it and render it with the same style there. But I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna keep it like this. How long do we have, Kevin? Not sure.
Yeah, however long you got, it's all good.
Okay, cool. I'm just gonna complete this particular page and let's try to finish this thing. So we are going to call, let's see what was in the response. So we were checking what's in the response, not there, there. So we're getting this data. So we know that we're getting an JSON of data there, but it already changes everything for us. So we have to go call data and data, then again data. So I think so I'm lost here. Is it something like this? Response again, or I'm maybe getting confused with the. So I'm gonna console log this thing just to be sure. So it's not a function. So yeah, I was wrong. So as you can see, every time a component is loading again, it's making sure that this function is running. This function XCS, what it's doing, it's calling this API from there, and then we are calling this and taking all the response and sending it to the console log. The reason I was just checking this, so I wanted to make sure that I'm getting an array in the end, so that I can change this value of the state using simply like this. So it's going to update this restaurant, and we can now pass this restaurant into another small component, which we are going to create now. Restaurants, and let's say this new restaurants is okay. First one, let's run a loop on the restaurants, and we're creating a map. And so map is a function which changes the value of the array and return it back. So we know that if we are gonna run into all the items, it's gonna be referring to restaurants. And let's quickly convert this to and see what was in the restaurants card. So I want to generate something like this from each restaurant and send that data to there. So yeah, and I'm going to quickly check the container of this thing. So which is it's already inside a container, so it doesn't matter. And there is the card and this row, every row. Okay, cool. So I'm not going to pass anything. I'm going to create a fragment just to be sure that it's wrapping everything that's getting returned there. And well, honestly, I don't need a fragment, just realized. And so this is another component that I'll be generating from this component. So I'm going to pass it a prop, which will be a restaurant. Let's just call it a restaurant. And let's pass this the same item that we are going inside a loop. So this will generate us the data, and all the data will be generated after the map. We change it into a wrapper restaurant, and it's going to pop out in there as a list. So it's saying restaurant is not defined. Yes, it's not defined. Thank you. So we're going to use something. And I'm going to copy all the restaurant cards, this thing, and there. So we are getting a props. Inside of props, let's quickly check what's inside the props. Or maybe if we can check the array. Okay. Okay, so it doesn't, okay, there's one more. So reason this is throwing an error, it's because this JSX doesn't recognize this particular syntax, so it will throw an error. So in case of HTML, it would have directly read it as a normal text and would have run it. So as we can see, all the cards are getting displayed, and inside another card, we have set everything as an empty. So that's why this is empty. And so this is a prop. So prop has a restaurant as a restaurant. It has ID. And then we need something like this as description, name, type of restaurant, and capacity. Okay, let's just only play around with that. So we know that props is having a restaurant, then a name. So let's give this a name, and let's remove this. So what was it? Restaurant type of, so props dot restaurant. And we have to pass this inside this bracket. and I'm gonna keep this. I'm gonna remove this just for simplicity and remove this part. Okay, let's keep it descriptions. Props dot restaurant dot description, and so this is class button primary to view restaurant. We will use something from React Router, which will pass this to restaurant. Okay, let's not get complicated here. Just gonna remove this right now. I'm gonna show a normal anchor tag and connect. Let's call it slash, for example, and give it view restaurant. Yeah. Now give a class name equals to pdn primary. Okay, so let's see. So we can see all the restaurants definitely. Okay, so the restaurant prop has something called attributes, and all the items are inside attributes. And yeah, okay. So I can easily destructure it here, but I'm just gonna keep going the way I'm going right now. So hopefully this will solve the problem. Oh yeah, cool. So this is how it is rendering everything. I'm gonna click this and it's not gonna do anything because it's an anchor tag there. In order to change from one page to another, if we want to use React Router DOM, we usually use so this. It's called link. This one. It gets so this is React Router. It's used from there, and you just give the location from this one and pass something your restaurant. So instead of normal anchor tag, we use link to change from one screen to another. And this enables us to use SPS feature, like the transitioning from one page to another. I think so for today, this should be it. If anyone wants to know more and like want to ask something, definitely can ask with me. I'm gonna finish this slide. So yes, okay. So I couldn't do the entire page, but yes, you can do it if you try. And yeah, this is my GitHub username. You can follow me if you want to see any project, if you want to know about any project, and you can contact me on LinkedIn. Yeah, that's it.
Nice one.
Anyone has any question that I can answer? Yeah, this was my first presentation. I was so nervous. I'm kind of forgetting like difference between XCS and fetch. I sometimes use fetch like just for the normal like get request or something, but XCS gives me like for post and patch request. It's really simple to use. I don't have to add header. So while I was using like response.json, so like should I use response.json or should I not? So that was one of the things.
May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Why you don't use something like Redux or mobs for store data in React? What do you think?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you properly.
What do you think of storing data in something like Redux, mobs? What do you think of it?
Yeah, I think so. It's awesome because it keeps like it depends on the application that you're making. But if you're making just a normal, it's a main application which is like front end heavy. So using Redux is pretty like effective, simple to use. Some people does say that setting up Redux is like is a lot of pain, and you can just use context API to use everything for that. But it's just everyone's opinion difference. It's very different. But Redux is pretty cool. And during one of my recent interviews that I did, so I did get asked this tricky question about like, when do you actually send all the data to the front end, and when do you not? So this is like, it also depends. So when you are creating an application, it depends how secure you want to keep that data. For example, it's just a survey question. So you can definitely send everything in like use effect and choose to use add event listener. Based on that, you can because it's not it doesn't require any security, but it does. If it does require security, you can choose to use effect in a way that it only fetches that API on certain time and with certain authentication token. So that's if someone wants to use that feature with React, it's going to be handy.
One more question.
Yeah.
Can you compare API and Webpacker? What do you think? What's best, Webpacker or API? To use different application, different GitHub store and so on API or Webpackers. What do you think?
So difference between Webpacker and API, is that right? Yeah.
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 Well,
So
what do you prefer?
I'm kind of getting like confused with this, because like if anyone knows this answer, definitely jump up. But all I know, Webpacker is mainly used to compile all the JSX and into like and send it. So this is all I know. But if anyone knows this answer, definitely jump in. And API is mainly if you want to transfer information from one point to another based on certain request and response. So that's what API is. But definitely jump in.
I think you're right. Awesome.